What's up, guys? Today is Tuesday, April the 14th, and this is math class. Hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to practice their 5 through 8 multiplication tables, and hopefully the explanation of the triangle method for the relationship between division and multiplication made sense. If not, feel free to check in with me or Mari, and hopefully we can get you some answers. For this week, we're going to focus on a pretty important skill, and that is converting fractions into decimals. And the way that we do that is through division. All right, there's a couple of tricks that we have to do to be able to convert those, and I will show you those tricks in the next part of this video. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the next part of the video. So we'll see you guys in a moment. Here we go. Okay, guys, so let's look at how to convert a fraction into a decimal using division. All right, so we're going to start with a simple fraction, which is 1/2, known as 1 over 2. Now, we're going to note that when we do 1/2, this is the numerator on the top and the denominator on the bottom. So, in order to turn our 1/2 fraction into a decimal, which is going to be here, so it's 0.5, we have to use division. So the first thing we're going to do after we're converting our 1/2 into our fraction, our fraction into our division problem, we're going to take the denominator, that's 2, and divide it into the numerator. Only one problem is we can't put 2 into 1 because 2 is bigger than 1. So we can't do that yet. All right. So that takes us to our next step. We have to do two things. One, we have to add a decimal, and we're going to bring our decimal up. So we're going to add our decimal. All right. Then we're going to add a 0, which is sort of like having a 10, except for it's 1.0. All right. So if you want to do this division problem without a decimal, you would have 2 divided by 10, which would give you 5. But because we have a decimal, we're going to bring our decimal up here, add our 0, and then go to our next step, which is to divide 2 into 1.0, or you can think of it as 10. So we know that 2 goes into 10 5 times, right? Because 5 times 2 equals 10. All right, so we're going to put our answer after the decimal, to the right of the decimal, which gives us 0.5. We're going to multiply 5 by 2, which gives us 10 with a remainder of 0. So that tells us that 1/2 is equal to 0.5, or 0.5 on the decimal, okay? You can also think of it like math. This would be the same as having 50 cents, all right? If a whole is $1, 1/2 of $1 equals 50 cents, all right? So let's take a look at a couple of other quick ones here, some examples, all right? All right, so here we're gonna start off with 3/4, all right? So if you remember, the first thing that we have to do is we have to divide our denominator into our numerator. So 4 divided by 3. Now, we can't put 4 into 3 because 4 is larger than 3. So we're going to follow the steps, and we're going to add our decimal and our 0, okay? So we're going to bring our decimal up. Now, we can divide 4 into 30. So if we've been practicing our multiplication problems, we know that 4 can go into 30 7 times without going over, because 4 times 7 is 28. So we're going to put our 7 here, all right, and then we're going to go 4 times 7, or 7 times 4, which gives us 28. We're going to follow the steps, do our subtraction problem. We can't take 8 from 0, so we're going to borrow from the 3 and turn that into a 10. So 10 minus 8 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So that gives us 2. Now again, we can't put 4 into 2, right? So we're actually going to do that same step again, and we're going to add another 0. All right? We're going to bring that 0 down, and that gives us 20. All right? So our last step now is how many times does 4 go into 20? Multiplication tells us that 4 goes evenly into 25 times. So we'll put our 5 up here and go 5 times 4 is 20, which gives us a remainder of 0. So therefore, 3/4 has an equal decimal of 0.75. Or you could think of it as 0.75 if you want, like 0.75. Okay? Again, you can convert that to money. That would be the same as having 75 cents out of $1. All right? So, let's go to our second problem here. I'm going to erase this so we have some room. Our next problem is 2/3. Now, if we follow the steps, we remember we're going to take our numerator, 3, divide it into our denominator, 2, and we cannot do that because 2 is smaller than 3, so 3 can't go into 2. So what do? We add our decimal and our 0, and we bring our decimal up. Now we can put 3 into 20. 3 does not go evenly into 20, but it can get as close to 20 as possible by multiplying by 6. 3 times 6. Okay, so 6 goes into 20 3 times without going over. 3 times 6 equals 18. We're going to do our math. 20 minus 18 is 2. If you want to do it this way, you can borrow from the 1, make that a 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. All right. Now again, 3 can't go into 2. So what do we have to do? We have to add another 0. And then what do we do with that 0? We bring it down. Now, can 3 go into 20? Yes, it can. Evenly, no. So it's going to go in another 6 times. So we're going to go 6. 6 times 3 is 18. And we have another 2. Now, we could actually keep going at another 0 and another 0. Ultimately, we would just get a bunch of 6s in a row. So for the purposes of this decimal looks like this. We put this little line over the top. That's a special way of telling us that those 6s go on forever. Okay? So 2/3 equals 0.66, and the 6 goes on forever. Okay? So that's converting 2/3 into a fraction that continues on forever. Okay, so whenever you see this little line on top, you know that means that fraction is repeating itself over and over and over. All right, let's do one more example. Okay, we're going to do 6/7. So what do? We can't put our numerator into our denominator, right? So 7 goes into 6. It can't go into 6. All right, so we're going to put our decimal and add our 0. Now 7 can go into 60. All right, let's get rid of that. How many times can 7 go into 60 without going over? Again, this is why it's important to know your multiplication tables. All right, so we know that 7 times 10 is 70. All right, so if we go 7 times 9, that would be 63. So 7 times 8 is 56. So we have 7 goes into 60 8 times. All right, 8 times 7 gives us 56. We're going to borrow from the 6, turn this into a 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. 7 cannot go into 4. So what do we have to do? We follow the same step. We add another 0. We bring our 0 down. That gives us 40. How many times can 7 go into 40? Again, knowing our multiplication tables is important. 7 times 5 is 35, and 7 times 6 is 42. So, without going over, we have to use our 5. 5 times 7 is 35. We subtract 35 from 40. Oops. 10 minus 5. And again, 7 has to go into our 5, but it can't. So we add another 0. Bring it all the way down. All right. 7 goes into 50 7 times. That gives us 49 with 1 left over. And you can stop there because this actually will go on. 7s will go on, but 0.857 is far enough, okay? Because you could continue on with this problem, but that is not necessarily beneficial. 7s are kind of a special number in division. So as long as you can get, anytime you have a 7, if you get the first 3 numbers of that, I'm fine with that. You can stop right there. But, so 6/7 equals 0.857, and that's far enough. See, there you go. And that's far enough on the decimal conversion. All right. All right. So with that, let me give you guys a couple of problems. All right. So, number 1, I want you guys to convert 4/9. All right. Number 2, I want you guys to convert 3/7. Number 3, I want you guys to convert 7/8. Number 4, I'll have you guys convert 3/5. And for our last problem for this week, we will do 5/8. All right, so there are your 5 problems I want you guys to do this week. Go ahead and work those problems. Try to convert them. Remember, on this 7 one, it's going to keep going. You're going to have 3 numbers. The decimal is going to be like point something, something, something. You can stop after the 3rd number, okay? To make it a little easier on yourselves. All right, so go ahead and write down those problems, and we will check in tomorrow. All right, hopefully this makes sense. Oh, by the way, you can go to Math Antics. And converting fractions to decimals. All right. You can Google that, go into Math Antics, and he will have an explanation that will be very similar to the one that I have. And hopefully he'll explain it maybe in a way that it helps to strengthen your understanding of how to convert fractions into decimals. All right? So work these problems, and I will check in with you guys tomorrow.